Hi students! Today we're going to be talking about correspondence in general, which is a form of technical writing that you will use a lot in the workplace and as you progress through your college career. So correspondence in general is just a way to communicate with other professionals. If you click on this link while you're watching this, it should take you to a YouTube video that will explain some common types of business letters, letters that you will experience in the workplace. The first thing that you want to consider when you're writing any type of correspondence is the audience and the writing style. You have two different options to choose from. You can have a formal writing style or an informal writing style. It's really up to you to determine when you use each of these. If you are writing something to your instructor, your colleagues, your supervisor, a board of trustees, you want to really use a formal style of writing. If you're writing something to your friends, familiar colleagues, then you can use something that's more informal. And it also kind of depends on the content. So depending on what you are writing, you have to be the judge of if you're going to make it more formal or more informal. Something else that they use in technical writing is casual versus restrained. And you'll see an example here. The first example or the first bullet is the casual. It worked. The new process is better than we had dreamed. Versus a more restrained. You will be pleased to know that the new process is more effective than we expected. Again, you have to know your audience to know when you're going to use a more casual form of writing and when you're going to use a more restrained. Another aspect is affectation. This is adapting too formal of a style so that it reads like a legal document. Here are two examples. Per yesterday's discussion, we no longer possess an original copy of the brochure requested. Please be advised that a PDF copy is attached herewith to this email. Now that first bullet point is way too formal. It does read like a bunch of legalese, like a legal document. The second bullet, we are out of printed copies we discussed yesterday, so I'm attaching a PDF to this email. Straightforward, to the point. It's still formal, it's still kind of restrained, not so casual, but it's not such a legal reading. A lot of times your audience can be offended if you make it sound like too much of a legal document. An opening and closing are two important aspects of any correspondence. So the opening of a correspondence should identify the subject and often the main point of the message. If the reader is not familiar with the subject, you can provide some background in your introduction. Do not state the main point first when the readers are skeptical. So if the readers are unsure or they don't feel the same way as you on a topic, you don't want to start out stating your main points. If the readers disagree with you, so if they feel the complete opposite of how you feel on something you are sending, you do not want to start with your main point first. In these cases, you want to state the problem or issue first, present some specific points that support your main point, and then you can go into your main points. Your conclusions should provide specific prompts to which the reader can respond. For example, thanks again for the report, and let me know if you want me to send you a copy of the test results. So something specific for the reader is what you want to include in your closing remarks. Goodwill and the you viewpoint. So two things. You don't want to be so blunt that you risk losing the reader's goodwill. So you want your reader to still be interested in what you have to say, and you can build this goodwill by emphasizing the reader's needs or benefits. Here are three examples of something weak, improved, and effective. So weak, we must receive the sales receipt before we can process a refund. An improved method of this is please send the sales receipt so that we can process your refund. And the most effective, so that you can receive your refund promptly. Please mail or fax the sales receipt. You'll notice in the last example there of the most effective way that we put some of the onus back on the reader. So whoever you're writing this correspondence to, you want to put it back on them. So it says, so that you can receive your refund promptly, please mail or fax the sales receipt. So you're still kind of emphasizing the reader's needs and the benefit that they will get. They'll get their refund if they do this thing. Again, here is another video that you can click on to give you some more information pertaining to what we are discussing. The last part of this PowerPoint is we're going to talk about tone. The tone that you take in your email is just as important as the content. So you want your email or letter or whatever correspondence to come across in a professional manner. So here are some examples to look through and think about how you could state these examples in a different tone. So instead of saying submit your answer in 1 week, you could say something like, it would be great to receive a response in 1 week. Something with a lighter tone. So you can review these on your own and go through how you could change these to make the tone sound more professional. Let's talk a bit about direct versus indirect patterns. A direct pattern, so we're talking about correspondence. Let's use a letter, for example. A direct pattern, gets to the main point quickly. You state your main point, you explain your facts or details, and you have a goodwill closing. This is the most used form of correspondence in the business world. You could also use an indirect pattern. An indirect pattern of writing delays starting the main point, may be effective when you need to present something sensitive or something negative. So let's say you're sending a resignation letter or a letter saying that you're quitting your job. That's something negative. You might use an indirect pattern for this. In that case, you would state the context of the message. So I'm writing this letter to inform you that I'm quitting my job. Explanation of the details. Why is this happening? Explain more of the bad news and then still do your goodwill closing. So best, sincerely, those are examples of goodwill closings. Here are some tips for clarity and emphasis. Use these things in business writing. Lists. Lists are very easy, very clear, and it helps your reader to really know what you are talking about. Even in an email, it is okay to use a bulleted list. Also using headings. Headings draw specific attention to the information that you want people to know. It also helps to break down an email so that your reader knows the exact points that they're looking for. They can also go back to this then and kind of summarize the main or most important points of your letter, email, or whatever correspondence. And then a subject line. A subject line comes at the beginning of your correspondence and lets your reader know what this is going to be about. You see this a lot in emails. If you're sending something to a professor, you should put in the subject line what the topic is. For example, I need help with the homework on page 92. That way, the reader, the instructor, knows exactly what you're going to be talking about in the content or the body of your email. The same thing with a professional letter, a memo, any type of correspondence. A subject line is really important. This is an example of a correspondence that was sent out. Again, this is something that you can look over in your own time to think about how you could rework this. Think about some of the errors that you might see in this correspondence and how you might change it to make it more professional.